Hello everyone and good morning and welcome to another De Montfort University live stream. Good morning if you are just joining us. We've already had somebody in the comments saying hello there. We are this morning going to be talking about the UCAS application process, giving everybody a little bit of an introduction to how UCAS works, and then we are also going to be looking at personal statements. So if at any point during this live stream you want to drop in a question, ask us any questions at all, obviously you can pop those into the Facebook chat. So if you're on Facebook, you can view the chat down below. If you are visiting on our website, you might not be able to see the comment box just yet, but if you click through to YouTube within the video, that should be able to take you over there and you'll be able to comment via YouTube. So there's lots and lots of ways to interact with us. Now, if at any point you want to give us a little shout out in the comments, or if you want anything that we want to shout out, make sure you stick in the comments as well. If there's anything you're sort of massively concerned about at the minute, if there's anything that you want to sort of bring up or point out to us, or again, if you've got any comments or questions for us, you can use the comment section to your advantage. I can see we've got quite a few viewers coming in through from Facebook, from YouTube. So just give us a little wave, say hi in the comments, just so that we know you're there, you're listening, and you're enjoying the live stream on this Tuesday morning. We know it's sunny outside. The advantage of live stream is you can take those outside, you can sat in the garden listening to us, whatever it is you're doing. Now, as we get into the live stream, I've just had a comment to say that my hair is looking pretty long on the top and the bottom of my face. So that's the lockdown chic that I'm going for. But just to get involved with this live stream, I've got some of my fellow colleagues working at DMU that are going to be able to help us out a little bit and talk a little bit more about the UCAS process. I'm going to do some introductions for those guys now. First of all, first person I'm going to introduce you to this morning is Jamie B. Hello, Jamie.
Morning, Ben. How are you doing? This is day 61 working from the back bedroom. You know, nothing could be happier here. It's all good.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. No, but I'm keeping like a tally chart on the wall. I'm scratching off day by day.
So how are you finding it, Jamie? All
right, you know, getting there. I think by now we're pretty much used to it. But obviously, for students in schools and colleges, it's a massive difference because they're still not in their school or colleges. So hopefully we can try and bridge the gap a bit and provide some of the info they would have got normally face-to-face in school.
Absolutely. And unlike myself, Jamie, you look like you are you're keeping the beard in check. I've fully embraced
the hairdresser is lives downstairs, so it's nice and handy. You know?
Oh, that's really handy. Yeah, unfortunately, not got the same advantages myself, but there we go. Next person I'd like to introduce is my colleague Faye. Hello, Faye. Good morning.
Morning. Sorry, still laughing at the hair comments. I shaved my beard today for everybody, so
that's good. Yeah, you're keeping on top of it.
Losing the plot here. Anyway, back to the stream. Looking forward to chatting to everyone this morning.
Absolutely, and we have got lots and lots of people jumping into the comments there. So we've got Arun, we've got Zoe, Alanda, we've got Sean, we've got Hiba, Evelyn, Archie. There's lots and lots of people joining us in the comments. So a couple of more introductions to go on. A man whose beard needs no introduction. It is Dalveer. Hello, Dal.
You should have pulled me in straight after Ben. Kept it in. I mean, after Jamie. Sorry, kept it in check with the old beard comments.
Yeah,
this beard grew overnight. Like as soon as I woke up this morning, hey ho, this beard came about. But yeah, like everyone's saying, guys, please do get in touch. We've got a bit of a stream lined up for you, but we would want to make it as applicable for you guys. So if you've got anything that you want to discuss, please do let us know, and we'll do our best to cover it over the next hour or so.
Absolutely. So you can see the evolution of the beard going on here now. I promise that this will be the last of the beard talk for the rest of the stream, or maybe not. I don't know. Next up on the introductions, we have got Nikita. Hello, Nikita.
Hello. Hi. So hopefully if you guys have any questions or anything, because I'm a recent graduate, we've got another colleague, and we're both recent graduates, both of us graduated in 2018. Do you have any questions or anything? Just pop them in the comments and we'll be happy to help.
Absolutely. No comments on the beards then?
No, I have no beard, unfortunately.
First comment you made about me today was every time we join the live stream, she just likes to say how long my hair got within every...
I want to see the progress.
That's why I've not shaved it.
Around the back, Ben. Can we see that? Have we got?
No, I'm hiding that one for today. I'll reveal that at a later stream. Last and certainly not least, it is Tay. Hello, Tay.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Tay. I'm a recent graduate like Nikita, and so we've been through the same boat as you guys might have, but not in the lockdown system. But if you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to comment them and we'll try to help you out.
Absolutely. So thank you very much, everybody, for letting me know that you're there. Give us a little wave saying hello in the comments, and you can continue to do that throughout the whole stream. So if you have any questions at all, make sure you pop them in that comment box. So what are we here to talk about today? Well, I know the answer to that. I've got the live stream script in front of me. We're talking about UCAS, and we're talking about all those all-important sort of UCAS processes and how students apply to university. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to Jamie, who's going to give us a very, very quick introduction into what UCAS exactly is.
I am. Okay, so UCAS stands for the University and Colleges Admission Service. It's the primary platform you'll use to apply to university. Whether you want to apply to start this year or whether you're in year 12 or first year of college to start next year, UCAS is the platform you'll use. It's also the platform where all of the huge amount of university choices are essentially advertised for you to browse and have a look at. So if you're thinking, what courses does the Montfort University do? Yes, you can go onto our website and have a look directly, but you can also go onto UCAS and see all of our courses listed down there. And you can also see all of the courses that all of the other universities list as well. So it's your place to go to for the application. It's your place to go to for the initial research in terms of understanding what courses are available. And it's also the place you can go to for lots of advice, support, and tips to help you through the UCAS process. So every single person will have that period when they move through the UCAS application form. Normally, if you're in school, you do your UCAS planning, you do your drafting of your personal statement, and you get your initial profile on UCAS set up in June, July, and then you apply through the autumn when you get back after the summer holidays. But we'll move on in a sec to lots more detail about how the application process works. But the one thing the UCAS option gives you is choice. There are more than 50,000 UCAS courses out there, a huge amount of choice. So you've got a massive range of options to go at. Your biggest job is just to work out how to narrow the options down from all of those courses down to the 4 or 5 you want to put on your form.
Absolutely. Jamie, a quick question that we had through the booking form on the website, actually, regarding UCAS very quickly was, is UCAS the only way of applying to university?
If you are a UK undergraduate student, then yes, it is. To apply for a UK undergraduate course, you have to go through UCAS. If you're an international student, it is possible to apply directly to a university you want to go to, either directly to the uni or through a local agent in country. But if you're a UK undergraduate doing your A-levels, your BTEC, your IB, whatever it is you're doing, then UCAS is the way that you apply. The only courses that don't fall under UCAS are some of the foundation courses. Foundation art and design you can apply for directly. Pretty much everything else, UCAS is the way to go. And it can just be one choice up to 5 choices on the one form.
Perfect. Getting that question out of the way nice and early. I'm afraid you're going to have to stick with myself a second, because I'm just going to tie into what Jamie's just talked about. And I'm going to run very quickly through the UCAS timeline. So if you bear with me 1 second, I'm going to work some magic here and I'm going to get what was a very fun graphic on the screen just there. There we go. So running through the UCAS timeline to just tie into what Jamie's just mentioned. It's all important that you understand, obviously, all those the big deadlines that you're going to have to hit and all those things that you need to consider over the next sort of 12 to 18 months. So if you're currently in your first year of A-level, sorry, if you're in year 12, you will be in the very first part of this timeline just here. So between January and September, as soon as you get into year 13 is when you should be doing most of your research. Obviously, in normal circumstances, you would be perhaps going to open days and that sort of thing, but we'll touch on open days in just a second. You should be obviously having a look at the different courses, having a look at the different options, and maybe even start to plan your application and your personal statement, which again, we're going to come on to in a little bit. When you arrive into year 13, and for all those year 13 students that are in year 13 at the minute, that's when your UCAS cycle opens. So that's when you're actually able to log in onto UCAS and make your application. If you are looking to apply for anything like Oxford or Cambridge or anything sort of down the sort of medicine or veterinary science route, your deadline's a little bit earlier. It is October 15th. So obviously way in the past there, but obviously if you're looking to apply for this year, then obviously you just need to be aware of that deadline on there. After that, your internal deadline is set by the college, and the reason why that internal deadline is set is so that they're able to get it in before the UCAS deadline, which is January 15th. So normally your college will ask for your application to be submitted in before, normally before Christmas or sometime in December or late November. So you've got to make sure you get your application in time so that your tutors can attach your predicted grades, they can attach teachers' references. So all of that stuff can go alongside your application, and they've got enough time to submit it before the January deadline. After that, you should have all your offers back from universities by March, and that's when you'll be able to make your sort of final decisions, your firm and insurance choices, which again we'll come on to before May. And that's when you can make those final decisions about where it is you're going to be going when you're to the university stage. And then obviously come August, when your results day happens, and hopefully come the following September, that's when you'll get to start university. So that's a nice, easy timeline to have a look at, just so you're able to kind of visualize exactly where you are at in the process and all those things that you need to consider over the next few months. And that's going to tie into everything that we're going to talk about throughout this live stream. So let's bring everybody back in. There we go. Didn't miss anything on the timeline there, everyone.
You nailed it, mate. I think nailed it.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Excellent. Right. So what we're going to be doing at this stage now is I'm going to hand over to Dal, who's then going to talk a little bit on top of that about how the application process works. And then maybe we'll jump over to chat and we'll have a look at some of the questions that are coming in there. So Dal, over to yourself.
Nothing like the fun stuff, Ben. So the application process. So what we've covered so far is Jamie's gone over what is UCAS. Ben's talked to you about the UCAS timeline. Now, what I'm going to briefly do is just summarize the actual application process that you guys will have to go to. So you'd make an account with UCAS Online. It's very simple to do. Just Google UCAS, or it's ucas.com/apply. On there, you'd have to make yourself a username, and you would also create yourself a password, as you would do normally. Okay, if you're applying for a school or college, your school or college will provide you with a buzzword, and that's to show that you're from that specific institution. And then you get the option to start narrowing down your choices. Now, it's up to you when you're making a UCAS application form. You can either make one choice or you can either make 5. So it's entirely up to you. There is a price difference between the two. So say, for example, if you make one choice, it's £20. If you make 5 university choices, it's £25. Now, our advice would always be try and make 5 choices, because it just opens up your opportunities in regards to getting an offer from university. When you actually look at the application process in a bit more detail, there are 6 sections. So the first section is your personal details, and that's just information around yourself. So it'd be your name, address, etc., etc. You would then put in your university choices 1 to 5, but this is not in any particular order. So your university choice number 1 is not your preferred choice. So you can just fill those in as you please on that. You'd have to also put your academic qualifications in. For this year, we know it's a bit funny and a bit tricky in regards to your A-levels and BTECs, but you'll put those details on there. And then you would put details around your employment history, and you will also ask for your teachers to write a reference for you. The final part of the UCAS process is the personal statement, and it's arguably the one thing that underpins your whole application. And I'm not going to go into too much detail because we're going to cover that in the next section with Tay.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Dal. Dal, we had a couple of questions come through about how UCAS points works, and I think this sort of ties into the UCAS process here at the stage. If I flash a bit an infographic in a second, are you okay just talking very briefly about that?
No.
Well, I'm going over to you anyway. There you go. Put you on the spot a little bit.
So where's the infographic, Ben? Oh, there we are. Okay, cool. So what Jamie was mentioning, there's over 50,000 courses, and when you're starting to look through these courses, you will see either grades or you will see either points attributed to each course. Now, what that means is the graph that you see on the side to me. So say, for example, if you're doing a BTEC level 3 extended diploma, and the course that you're after asks for 112 UCAS points, you know by looking at the chart you would need to achieve distinction merit. Let's just say you're doing A-levels and you apply for a course that asks for 120 UCAS points. That would be the equivalent of 3 Bs, because each B is worth 40 points. Now, there is no set way on how you achieve these points. So you can do a mix and match. So you can do A levels, you can do part of a BTEC or an EPQ, as long as you meet the point criteria. It doesn't matter how you achieve those, as long as the point criteria is set. Some university courses might use grades. So you might see BBC, you might see ABB, or wherever it may be. And that is written in terms of, right, those are the grades that you need to achieve in order to go on to that course.
Perfect. Thank you very much for giving us a bit of introduction to that. Now, before we move on to personal statements, first of all, does anybody want to add anything at this stage?
Nope.
No, good stuff. So I'm just going to tackle a couple of questions that we've had through from the comments because they are sort of tangentially related. It's a big word for the Tuesday morning. We had a couple of questions about the sort of September intake, Jamie. Am I okay to chuck those over to yourself? So we've had one comment that said, do you think next term will still be online? And then obviously a similar question where they've said, do we think we'll still have a September intake? Am I okay to just hand over to yourself very quickly?
Yeah, of course you can. So like a lot of sectors, we're busy working out what the sort of COVID-19 impact's going to be, not just in the short term. Obviously, for short term, you can tell I'm not in my office, I'm in the back bedroom. But longer term, we're hoping incrementally to be able to start moving back to campus. What we don't know is the exact timeline and processes behind that. They're still being worked out. There's a big group of people meeting constantly to work out what it is. So for September term, it could be a on-campus experience, but with social distancing heavily involved. It could be a fully digital experience with people studying from home for the first term with lots of material support and social activity generated digitally, or it could be a bit of a fusion between that over the term. Over the coming weeks, the sector generally and DMU will come up with our detailed plan to tell you how it's happening and tell you about the support and opportunities that will be in place behind that. But I think we want to give it enough time to see what happens over the coming weeks, because we're just starting to come out of lockdown. Some primary schools might start going back on the 1st of June. So we want to kind of see how that works, what the impact is, what some of the pros and cons and processes are, and then work our own plans in off the back of that. So we're communicating with you actively over the coming weeks. As soon as that plan becomes firm, we know exactly what the September term looks like, we will let you know in detail with a phone call, a set of emails, and just as many comms as we can. So do bear in mind that it's just a fluid situation, but we'll make sure we're supporting you. The term is as positive as it can be, but whether it's on campus, digitally, or somewhere in between, is still to be confirmed over the next few weeks.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I'll be sure to pop the link to our virtual open day that's going to be taking place on the 4th of July in the comments very, very shortly. So people can sort of head over to that and book on and find out a bit more about our courses.
And the same goes for open days. The July open days definitely digital. The autumn term open days, we're hoping we can do them on campus. But again, we've got to be aware of safety of the community, of visitors, of staff. So again, that's going to be a watch this space. There's definitely going to be open days in September, October, November. We just don't know yet whether they can be in person on campus or whether there'll be virtual experiences that we're creating to give you a great vision of the campus, but not physically being there. So again, it's just keep an eye on everything.
Perfect. Yeah, so I've just stuck the comment, the link, sorry, in the comments, so you can go along to that. And if you do want to book on to the open day, we're again still obviously planning stages for that, still trying to make sure it's still going to be a good experience. So you better go on that and find out a bit more about how we're sort of doing this during lockdown. So we've talked a little bit about the timeline, and Dal kindly run through the application process and looked at things like UCAS points. The other big part, and the one that we've had quite a lot of questions about actually coming through our booking form, was about personal statements. And obviously this is the bit that quite a lot of students, they either struggle with or they get really, really concerned about when they're kind of in the starting stages of writing their personal statement. So we've got a couple of you guys are going to be talking a little bit about personal statements, but I'm going to jump over to Tay, first of all, who's going to give us a very, very quick introduction to what a personal statement is.
Thanks, Ben. So a little bit of an overview of personal statements. Remember, a personal statement is just a page of what about why you want to study a subject, why you're passionate about studying the subject that you have chosen. Remember, you can only write one personal statement. So whether you're applying to one university or 5 universities, as Jamie and Dal said, it needs to be one, and it needs to be catered to all those universities. So, I mean, you can write, I really like DMU's subject or whichever course, and I really want to go DMU and experience the campus, but it's going to go to all those universities. So you need to bear in mind that personal statement is is a way to sell yourself. You remember the admissions or UCAS, they'll be looking at all thousands and thousands of applications. They're going to be reading the same thing. So you want to make sure your personal statement, there is something that stands out. So when the moderators are looking at them, they can see that oh, this person is different and something that sticks with them. It's also another way, again, like I said, it's a way for the university to get to know you better, and why you're really passionate about that subject. They want to see your motivation and you're serious about going on to learn that subject. And they use this to make a decision. They look at your grades, they look at all those things as well, but a personal statement just, makes that a lot more better and easier for them to see. Also, personal statement is about 4,000 characters, which is about 47 lines. You may not think that that's a lot, it's like a page, but when it actually comes to writing down, it is hard. Having gone through this process, I thought it would be really easy to write this. I could do it, but when it actually comes to writing down, those 4,000 characters, they literally go very quickly, and you would need more than that, which is why the structure and planning is so important, which Jane will talk about.
Perfect. Thank you very much. In that case, then segueing very, very nicely over to Jamie, who's actually going to look at the structure of a plan.
I am, yeah. So I hated the personal statement when I did it. It was the worst part of the application form. I put it off for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. Till eventually in the autumn term, I just had no choice but to sit down and write it under kind of like duress from my parents. It was either you write the personal statement or you're not going out tonight. So I had to, I had to sit down and do it. So don't do what I do. Definitely plan it, organize it, be on top of the game. It really, really is the most important part of the application form. Your education history and your work experience, there's only so many things you can do to change it. Whereas the personal statement, which is a blank sheet of paper, and you can make it amazing, you can make it okay, or you can spend 2 minutes on it and make it not very good at all. You've got that control. And you obviously want to make it as strong as you can, because it is basically your own personal sales pitch on a page. And when it comes to structure, there's no hard and fast and rigid template you need to follow. And if you try and follow a template too closely, you lose the personality, you lose the flavor, and you lose the fluidity. So try and make sure you're writing very much about yourselves, focus on other things that you think are most important to yourself. But some top tips on structure. Try and make the first few lines as engaging and enriching and positive as you can. You imagine if you're starting a new book, playing a new computer game, watching a new television program. Those first few minutes of your consuming it are when you decide, am I interested? Is this something I want to do? So the opening lines, focus on them, try and make them punchy, try and make them memorable. The second part then is going into details about yourself. You're describing your suitability, and you're trying to bring in all the different elements of experience that you've got. So you're bringing in experience you've gained from your A-levels, your BTEC, your IB, your Access course. You're bringing in wider reading that you've undertaken. You're bringing in your work experience. You're bringing in your extracurricular activity. But what you're doing is you're not just name dropping these things. You're not just saying, in my spare time, I work in boots. I want to be a lawyer when I graduate from university. I have enjoyed my maths A-level. What you're talking about is, you're not just, so with the boots one, you might say, in my spare time, I work in boots, where I deal with customers on a daily basis and develop my clinical knowledge supporting the practicing pharmacist. So you're talking about what you do, you're talking about then skills you gain. And then if, say, for example, you want to be a pharmacist, you're specifically linking those skills to the course you want to do. So it's making sure you're not just stating an empty statement. Everything you do, even if you say, in my spare time, I play five-a-side football, you're not just saying that. You're saying, I enjoy the development in my team working skills, which would be really valuable for me studying in my X degree. So everything is about name checking the experience, taking skills from that experience, and then linking the skills through to the course you want to do. And it needs to have plenty of focus on the academic. Don't just talk about the social, the fun, the sports, but enough on the work that's going to bring in those practical skills you develop in the workplace. And then at the end, you're linking it all down to a finished focus conclusion. You're recategorizing why it is you've chosen the course you want to do, and you're putting a nice, neat finish on it. And ideally, you're narrowing your courses down to one course area. On your 5 choices, you can theoretically choose French, art, dance, physics, and history. There's nothing stopping you in the rules of UCAS. But you try writing one of these statements, focusing on those 5 different subjects, and trying to make it specific and targeted. You'll end up confusing yourself, confusing the staff in the school reading it, and confusing the university tutors as well. So do try and narrow your choices down as much as you can. Spend time on it. I started mine off eventually with a list of notes, a bullet point, kind of like a mind map, all the things I wanted to include, and then I pulled them in one by one into the statements and expanded it from there. Trying to write straight from nothing onto a blank sheet of paper is difficult. Do your notes, do your planning, and go in from there. And we know that work experience and volunteering work are things you'd normally pick up a lot of in the summer after year 12 and before year 13. And we know that this summer is not going to be the same as any other summer, a lot harder to get that experience, and we will absolutely take that into account. So please don't panic if you can't get the work experience you were hoping to get, but do something proactive to try and fill the gap. Perhaps do some kind of online learning course, perhaps try and find digital or even reading related ways to develop your skills and experience. So don't just kind of sit there and go, I can't get work experience, therefore I'll do nothing. Be creative and try and find ways you can develop your skills and experience, even if you can't get out and do the things you would normally go and do. But most importantly, get started, get thinking, get drafting, and get moving.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jamie. I think you've already sort of touched on this question ever so slightly, but I just want to bring it in. So thank you very much for submitting this, Neha. If I said that wrong, again, apologies. But it's and we've had a couple of questions sort of surrounding this, is how are students supposed to get sort of work experience opportunities, and what other things can they do to kind of boost that personal statement? Have you got any sort of other advice around that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it is just about being creative and thinking about the different course you want to do and looking at other ways you can get work experience. You know, consuming digital material definitely is going to be a really, really valuable thing, as well as picking up any reading, any articles, any current affairs relating to your career path, something to just show that you're being proactive and you're trying to do everything you can to upskill yourself. Even contact university course leaders. So if you're interested in nursing or social work, the types of courses that often need work experience, when we have Digital Open Day on the 4th of July, speak to the tutors and say, for my particular course, I would have spent the summer working in a care home, developing experience. What, from your point of view as a nursing tutor, is best going to fill that gap? What would you suggest I can do? So talk to the experts and be proactive. But at the same time, bear in mind, we'll be a lot more flexible in next year's cycle than we normally are, because we know that you're going through such challenging times right from March, probably right through to the autumn. So be proactive, talk to the experts, go online, do your research, but don't panic, because we are going to be a lot more flex.
Perfect. Let's bring everybody else back in. Does anybody else have any sort of advice around the personal statement, or any sort of things that they can remember from when they were writing their own statement that they did or didn't do?
Yeah. I would say, as my top tip is, if you are like me and were stuck in a situation where you was stuck between 2 subjects, for example, I was stuck between history and English, I would suggest maybe writing 2 separate personal statements. This is only for when you do come to a decision at the end that, you know, oh, I want to do history or I want to do English, that you have a personal statement ready for each of them, and you wouldn't last minute trying to change everything around. So I think maybe just be prepared for either whenever you make that decision.
Absolutely. You know, my favorite thing about lockdown so far is whenever somebody just has a slight technical issue and the camera freezes, it's the funny faces that people pull. Jamie, you've pulled some corkers over the last couple of months.
Really? I'm going to have to work on my poker face.
Yeah. Does anybody else have anything about personal statements they want to add? Faye, you've stayed suspiciously quiet through the stream so far.
I'm enjoying listening to all of you, don't worry. I think just don't put it off, like Tay said, just because you're not quite 100% certain what you want to do. You can start writing about why you're suitable, writing about what excites you about the subject, what are you looking forward to learn, and that can also almost help you make that decision as to what you actually want to study, and maybe something that's a hobby you want to do in your spare time, perhaps. So don't be afraid to start putting pen to paper, just sketching some ideas. Nikita, I'm sure she has a few ideas. She loves the mind map. I'm sure she'll demonstrate what her mind maps look like. They're absolutely fantastic. So yeah, don't be afraid to just start jotting down some ideas, and even ask people for advice. You know, parents, or if you've got a brother or sister who went to university, speak to them. How did they start writing it? Can they help you point out, you know, what's great about you? What are you skilled at? What are you know, positive about yourself? So ask people for feedback, because I think sometimes it's quite hard to sit there and write about how great you are, and it might make you cringe. But that's what we want to hear. We want to hear about your skills. We want to hear about what makes you tick, and how you're going to be successful at the course and at university.
Absolutely. Faye, I am surprised that you didn't mention anything to do with spelling and grammar, because in the team you are known as the queen of spell check. So you're always our go-to person to check over our emails. So I think that's important as well. Get somebody to check your spelling. Faye might not always be available to check your spelling, but get somebody to check your spelling. Anything else? I know, Nikita, again, you're obviously another recent graduate. You've recently gone through the process. Any sort of top tips for personal statements?
Definitely. So I think a couple of tips that I would bear in mind is to save all of your different drafts. So if you're writing your personal statement, you don't have to write it directly into the UCAS form. You can copy and paste it into the UCAS form later. So what that means is you can use resources such as Word, which will spell check and grammar check for you. There's also websites such as Grammarly, and you don't have to pay for the paid version. The free version is just as good. You can copy and paste everything that you've written into there so that you can check for spelling and grammar mistakes. The other thing I would suggest is to save the different drafts that you're working through. So for myself, I was so critical of my own work that I would completely change things around regularly. What I found was best for me is to save draft 1, draft 2, draft 3, so I could see the progress that I made, and then be reflective and look back and say, actually, I really did like how I wrote that in paragraph 2 in the first draft, or I like this paragraph in the other draft. And then you can actually see the progress that you've made as well. So you do actually feel like you're achieving something, because after a while it does just look like, why is it taking me this long to write one piece of A4 paper? But it is important. You are going to write several drafts, so just have a bit of patience and just be reflective of your own work, really.
Absolutely. Dal, anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, so in my previous post, I used to mark personal statements, and everything that the guys have said so far has been absolutely spot on. The only thing that I would say is a top tip is that, like Tay was saying, admissions tutors do read a lot of personal statements, and sometimes, if I be completely honest with you, it gets boring. Once you've read one, you've got to read the other. No two students are exactly the same, but yet we're seeing carbon copies of personal statements because everyone feels like they have to be rigid. Jamie mentioned you don't need to follow a structure per se, because it does take away from that personality. And I really want to emphasize on that, because we want to get to know you. So we want to understand the person behind the form. And the best way we're going to be able to do that is by you guys reflecting on your skills and qualities. Now, my biggest tip would be try and think deeper than the standard communication, teamwork, cooperation, those types of skills and qualities, because a lot of students are going to mention the same sort of things. So really reflect on the 3 elements of your life. So your academics side, your social side, and your employability side, and really think about, right, what skills have I developed? And more importantly, what skills are going to set me aside from all the other applicants? And how am I going to bring that in by showing different elements of my experience? And always provide that or back that up, like Jamie was saying, with an example. So that would be my top tip.
Perfect. Good stuff. So we've heard from everybody in the team there. And I think that has covered quite a lot of the questions that we actually had submitted via the booking form. Looking at, again, obviously things like the structure, which we've obviously talked about, the effective way to kind of put that all together. There are a couple of questions I do want to come to before we move on, however. We've also touched on, obviously, how students can get sort of extra experience around their statement as well. So if anybody has any advice about that, obviously during lockdown, some advice regarding that, obviously do make sure you chip in. One of the questions that we did have, and I think it touches a little bit on what Dal's just talked about, is the sort of ratio between talking about the sort of academic side and the extracurricular side in a personal statement. Dal, you've just talked about it being obviously a very personal statement. So do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, so what I would always say, or what we look for when we were marking, is that first initial paragraph, what Jamie was referring to, is what's going to capture attention. You should be able to really explain your understanding of that field or that course that you want to go into. So for me, when I'm reading a personal statement, the one thing that will always catch my eye is the student's understanding of that field. What do they currently know? And that's the best part, to put the academic side in. And if you look at it as a split, I'd make it fairly even, but dependent on the university that you're applying to. So if you are doing an Oxford or Cambridge application, then it's going to be more academic focused. I'm not saying all the other universities are less academic inclined, but that's just the way that those personal statements work. But for me, the initial part, or the initial third of your personal statement, should be orientated around your academia, your understanding, and how your current education, whether it be A levels or BTEC, has helped inform your opinion or your understanding, and how that's going to contribute for you when you transition into university.
Absolutely. Does anybody else have anything they want to add to that question, or anything about personal statements in general? No? We've ticked all the boxes. Perfect. Good stuff. The other question that we did have, and this does link into our next section, is the best way to write a personal statement, and what are some do's and don'ts for writing a personal statement? So thank you very much to Santiago for submitting that. Nikita, I think you've got some do's and don'ts that we can talk about very quickly, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. So first and foremost, do be prepared to write it several times. You are never going to be happy with the first draft that you write. And if you are happy with the first draft, you've got to question why you're happy with that first draft, because there's no way you're going to write a perfect personal statement the first time. As Jamie mentioned earlier, I don't think he uses terminology, but we recommend using something called the ABC method, which is start with the activity that you've done. So for instance, as he said, you play on a football team. Explain how that's beneficial to your course, and then C, link it back to your course, make it relevant to your course so that it shows that you have an understanding of the skills that you would need to be successful in that particular course. Don't be afraid to ask for feedback. Your friends and family are going to be so supportive during this time, hopefully. Go to your peers, go to your tutors, ask for feedback. Don't be afraid to have somebody else check your spelling and your grammar. Not everybody in their life has a Faye, but I'm sure you're going to have someone who's an equivalent who will be able to check that for you. And that's definitely what I did. So me and my best friend used to sit in a library and we would write our own personal statements for about half an hour or so. And then after a while, we would swap and we would look over, because sometimes when it is your own work, it's your own masterpiece, it's very difficult to sit back and objectively look at it and see the mistakes and the weaknesses. Sometimes you're so determined to get a particular point across and it might make sense to you, but somebody reading it may not understand it. So don't be afraid to ask for feedback. It's all constructive. Look at the UCAS website for tips. There is, I believe, a personal statement generator on there. So have a look at all the online resources that are available to you. At the moment, I'm sure you've got a lot more free time on your hands than you normally would. There's no time like the present, even if you're a year 12 student thinking, I've still got time, I don't have to have the deadline in January. It comes quicker than you think it does. And I imagine you're going to have so much academic stuff to worry about when you get back because of the obviously not being taught in person at the moment. Just start yourself off as best as you can and just make the most of your free time at the moment. As we've said, make a plan. So it can be so intimidating to sit there with a blank piece of A4 paper and just write a personal statement. So my advice would be, don't start like that. Start with, and this is my personal favorite, this is how I work every aspect of my life, create a mind map. So what I would recommend is to create 2 different mind maps. Create a mind map, first of all, around the course that you're applying for, the skills that you think that they would like to see. Have a look at the different descriptions on the different websites. They will have a lot of information on there about core skills that they require you to have. Make a mind map so that you've then got everything on there that you think that you need to get across on your personal statement to make yourself look like a successful potential applicant. And then make a separate mind map on all the things that you have, all the attributes you have, all the experiences that you've had, whether that's work experience, social skills that you developed, academic stuff that you developed, or even just sports, that type of thing. Make a mind map on there and then see how you can link these across. And that's how you'll start to find that your personal statement almost starts writing itself at that point. Make sure you're using, as I've said before, Grammarly and Microsoft Word to check for your spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes, and make sure that you're keeping it relevant. One side of A4 is not a lot once you actually start putting pen to paper. So every little thing that you say, every sentence should be relevant to your application. You shouldn't be filling it out with unnecessary jargon or things that don't sound authentic to yourself. Keep it relevant, keep it brief, and keep it to the point, basically. As I said, stick to language that you're comfortable with. If you're using a thesaurus for every other word that you have on there, admissions tutors are going to see straight through that. They're going to know that you're trying to be something that you're not. Keep it authentic to yourself. Obviously, don't be using completely basic language. It needs to be a formal piece of work. But remember that not only are you being assessed on the content that you're writing, but the context of what you're writing as well. So when you go to university, a lot of degrees require you to submit essays and reports and that type of thing. If you're not able to write a personal statement, how are you going to then write these academic pieces of work? So bear that in mind as well. And make sure it's positive. So this is really your opportunity to sell yourself and show that you have an understanding of the course and that you are going to be a good match for the course. So just bear that in mind with everything that you say, and just give yourself a bit more credit than you think you deserve, basically.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nikita. I think it's over to myself very quickly to talk about the don'ts then. So this is like my counter argument. Well, not really counter argument. For the do's and don'ts for personal statements. So I've got, it's always quite tricky when I'm doing this and the buttons at the same time. I've got to talk and click things at the same time. There we go. So some do's and don'ts. So those were obviously really handy things that you should be considering when you're looking at your application. And then obviously conversely things you need to just be aware of as well on the flip side of that. First thing I will say is make sure that when you're putting your email address into your UCAS application, make sure it is a professional email address. And this goes for job applications as well. You know, you don't want to be caught out with a really embarrassing email. I'm not going to go over some examples on this live stream here because it is only 11 o'clock. So that wouldn't be obviously very PG of me. So make sure you have got a professional sounding email address that you can use for obviously professional work related things or for your UCAS application. Ideally, obviously, this needs to be all your entire own work. So this needs to be yourself. It is called a personal statement for a reason. So don't copy from somebody else and try and avoid using templates online. As Nikita mentioned, there is a templating tool that you can use on the website, on the UCAS website, that will give you, it will kind of prompt you for certain points that you need to talk about from the structure that Jamie mentioned earlier. So you can use that, and that kind of avoids you from actually being able to kind of follow an online template. And there are templates available online, but realistically you shouldn't be using them because I say this needs to be your own work. You need to not obviously lie or exaggerate too much on your application because the likelihood is you could get caught out, particularly if you do end up going through to an interview. They may ask you questions about it from your application at the interview stage. So you need to obviously just consider that when you're actually making your application as well. And avoid using that informal language. As again, Nikita mentioned, obviously make sure that you keep it quite formal where possible. Again, it needs to be personal and it needs to make sure that your personality is reflected in the application, but obviously avoid using slang terms and swear words. Keep it as formal as possible in that sense. Avoid cliches, although I do like a good cliche, they're not necessarily going to be the best thing to include in that application. As Dow's mentioned, once he's heard one cliche at the top of a personal statement, he's probably heard it 100 times. So make sure that you avoid using those and you Am I back on? I just sort of dropped out for a minute. I'm seeing lots of nods, so I think we're good. Sorry, I may have dropped out there and I might have been the one pulling the funny face there. We'll see. We'll see if we can keep going. Last couple of bits for me on this bit here. So your application, as we've talked about before, your personal statement will go to all 5 of your UCAS choices. So when you're actually writing that application, if you write at the top, I really want to go to DMU because, but your other 4 choices are Lincoln and, I don't know, Dundee, they will also see that same application. So you need to make sure you're keeping it from that side of things as generic as possible. Last thing to just mention with regards to that is we have obviously talked about using things like Grammarly and Microsoft Word, but as we know, they are very, very easily tricked. So don't just rely on that spell check. Do what I do and rely on Faye to check over your work, or your mum and dad, or colleagues, or friends. Just have as many people as you can look over your drafts, look over your spelling, and check your grammar and that sort of thing as well. And they'll also be able to tell you whether you're using sort of slightly informal language and where there's bits that you can tweak as well. And obviously your tutors are going to be fab for this as well. So that's just a few do's and don'ts from myself and Nikita there with regards to the personal statement. Let's jump back over to the team. There we are. Did I cut out for a long time there? Was all good?
2 seconds, maybe.
Oh, good. That's all right then. Excellent work. So we've talked quite a lot about the personal statement during this application. So I think what we're going to talk about now is what happens after you submit the application. So we're going to move away from personal statements, but if you do have more questions about that, you can stick them in the comments and we'll try and do our best to answer them in the last sort of 20 minutes or so. But I'm going to hand over to Faye, who's going to talk about what happens once your application gets sent to those universities.
So great, you have decided who you want to apply to. You've decided what subject that you want to study, which obviously massive choice. You've written your personal statement. You've paid your fee to UCAS and you hit send. Craziness. Great job. That's fantastic. You've really accomplished something. And what happens next is that UCAS will actually send a copy of the application to all chosen universities. And remember, again, the universities don't know where else that you've applied to. They don't know if they're your first choice, if they're your last choice. So we all, keep it fair. UCAS is kind of that invigilator between the two, the moderator. So universities will get your application, they'll assess it, they'll go to the admissions tutors. Now, don't panic if your friend gets answers back about their application before you do, or if one university is a lot quicker than other university. It might just be that they're looking in batches, that you're not within the first 500 batch, you're 501, for example. So do not panic. You can call universities if you want to. You can say, have you looked at my application yet? Or did you receive it? Everything okay? So if you're feeling a little bit nervous, a little bit worried, don't hesitate to give us a call. We're more than happy to help. When we look at your application, we may request further information from you. So that is completely dependent on the course that you're applying to. So it might be that you're doing something art and design based. It's what you want to do at university. So we may request a portfolio, and you might have to come onto campus for an interview. We might ask you to submit a portfolio digitally. Or we might invite you to an interview if it's something a little bit more skills based. So something like nursing, midwifery, for example. It might be you want to do something like medicine, there's certain tests that you need to sit. So need to have a check on that, have a look at the interview date and make sure that you know how to get there. Or it might be that they are interviewing you online, so make sure you know how to work the technology, just like we have to make sure we know how to use this technology to talk to you today. Once all that's done, you might not have to send a portfolio, you might not have an interview. It might be solely based on your application, that personal statement. That's why it's so important. Then UCAS track will be updated as to whether you have an offer, and you'll most likely also receive some communications from the university. It might be by mail, it might, so through the post, quite nice receiving that, open up the envelope. It might be by email. So you can also check that with the university if you wish. But we're going to go on to perhaps some of the offers that you will need to make and some of those key decisions next.
In that case, it's over to Dal.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ben. Thank you, Faye. So once you get to the stage of receiving offers from university, now this will usually happen around the end of March if you met the timelines that Ben was talking to at the start of this stream. The universities will start to come back to you with a decision on your application, and the most likely outcome will either be conditional offer, which basically means you can come to our university based on the condition that you achieve distinction merit in your BTEC, or if you achieve BBC, for example, in your A levels. You may receive an unconditional offer if the application is an exceptional application. You've got great grades, you've got great work experience, and we truly think you'll be a great addition to the university. That means there are no conditions to your offer and your place is virtually guaranteed at university. If we feel that your skills and qualities aren't quite suited to the course that you guys have specified, we might provide you something that's called an alternate course offer, an alternative course offer. So we might say to you, right, you've applied for nursing, but have you had a look at health and social, health and well-being, for example, because we feel you might be a bit more suited towards that course. So we might offer you an alternative course as opposed to the course that you guys have applied for. And the last type of offer might be unsuccessful, and in that case we don't believe that you are suitable to study on that course at that time. Once you've received your offers, you then need to make a decision. So let's just say you're a very good student and you've received all 5 offers. They're both, all of them are conditional offers. You then have to narrow down to 2. So the first one being your firm choice. So your firm choice is the choice that you definitely want to go to. And then we also need to select an insurance choice. Let's just say, because we're working with conditional offers, you do not meet the conditions of your firm, then you'll automatically be dropped down into your insurance should you meet the conditions of your insurance. The remaining 3 offers from there will automatically be declined, and it will just be those 2 offers that you will be holding. Now, the deadline is usually today, so the 19th of May. But obviously these dates have been fluctuating with the current circumstances that we're going through. Once you've made a firm choice, universities will then be in touch regarding accommodation and trying to sort that out.
Perfect. Thank you very much again, Dale, for covering that side of things. Now, just to sort of tie into that and tie into what we were talking about with the timeline earlier, the next step in that process is UCAS Extra. And I'm going to jump back to Faye, who's going to explain how UCAS Extra works.
Yeah, so UCAS Extra is kind of an additional tool that you can use. It might be that you have received back all your offers and or you've heard back from all the universities that you've applied to, and unfortunately you've been unsuccessful. Now, it can happen. Hopefully, you have looked at the entry criteria, you have, looked at whether your skills match that course. But if it does happen, you're unsuccessful for all, there is UCAS Extra, and that opens end of February, runs until July, and that is your opportunity to make another choice. So it could be that it's for the same course, but at a different university, or it might be that you apply to a different course entirely. So it's something to bear in mind. You can only make one extra choice through UCAS. So do call universities up first, see if they still have places available, maybe have a chat with them through your subjects, your predicted grades. So that's something that you could utilise if that applies to you. It might also be that you have changed your mind about the course that you want to do. It might be that you can call the university. If it's something quite similar, they might be able to make the switch on their side. But if it's something completely different, it might be that you have to go through UCAS Extra. Or again, it might be that you want to go to a completely different university, one that you haven't applied to. So you could use UCAS Extra. Just bear in mind that you cannot be holding any offers to use UCAS Extra at all. So if you're in the position where you want to change a course completely, or you completely want to change the university that you want to go to, maybe you haven't applied to CMU, you just realise how brilliant it is, then it might be that you want to utilise it, but you do have to reject all of the offers that you've had come through. There's no additional cost if you go through UCAS Extra, if you've already paid that £25 fee. Just bear in mind that if you do want to change the course, you've been unsuccessful, you're applying to a different course, you can't change your personal statement, but the university might ask you for a separate piece of writing that you can send directly to them. They'll let you know what you need to do in this kind of case as well. Do maybe find out why you've been unsuccessful, if it's a particular university and course that you wanted to do. It might be that you could work on what was lacking. Maybe it was that it was work experience, or perhaps an understanding of what the course was about. It might be that you could apply later through clearing and actually build on those skills that you were missing. And we will go into clearing in just a bit as well and kind of sum that out for you and explain what it's all about. But do contact us if you want any extra information on UCAS Extra. We still have courses available. We're still accepting applications.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Now, again, I'm so sort of conscious of time, trying to wrap it up within the hour, so we'll get through the last couple of points really, really quickly. As I say, if you do have any comments, we have got a very short Q&A session at the end, so you can stick any of your final burning questions in there, and like I said, we'll do our best to answer them. Tying off what Faye's just talked about, thank you very much for sort of clearing up what UCAS Extra is. When it comes to results day, obviously this is that big important day that is going to be quite crucial in the sort of next stages for your decision making. Ideally, obviously, when it comes to results day, you'll get the results that you want, you'll get the place at the university you want, and everything will be absolutely fine. And that means that you've gotten your place at your firm choice, which is the one that we talked about, which is the one that you really want to go to, and you've put onto UCAS as your firm choice. If you don't quite meet the grades for that, that is the day where you'll get automatically bumped down to your insurance choice if you meet the grade criteria for your insurance choice. So on results day, that's when you'll find out a lot of that information as to whether you've got your place at either your firm or your insurance choice. Now, on results day, obviously there could be a variety of different situations that you fall into when it comes to that stage. So it might be that perhaps you don't meet the grades for your application, and you have to look at alternative options, something like clearing, for instance, which again we'll come on to in a second. It might be that you exceed your offer, you are higher grades than you needed for your university application, and you could do something called adjustment, which means you could look at trading up to a university with higher grade tariffs or to a different course with a higher grade tariffs. So you've got these options on results day to actually contact universities and actually find out about those alternative offers depending on what situation you fall into. But it's very, very important with results day that you are fully prepared to tackle the day from the get-go. So getting up early enough so that you're able to actually start contacting as many universities as you can if you fall into that criteria. And ideally you want to avoid going on holiday, simply because obviously if you're in another country, you're sat on the beach sunning it up and you're not able to get phone signal to contact those universities, you could put yourself at a slight disadvantage. So ideally you want to be in the best position to be access to a computer, access to your UCAS and access to a phone to be able to kind of make those phone calls and start making those decisions. This year it's going to be on the 13th of August, I believe, is when that will all be open. That's when you'll be able to contact those universities and you'll be able to find out what those next steps are if, as I say, things don't go quite the way that you planned, or if, for instance, you do better than you expected and you actually decide you want to start trading up or changing where you might want to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass over to Jamie, who's kindly going to talk to us very briefly about how actually clearing is going to work this year.
Cheers, Ben. So clearing tends to be associated with something you don't want to be in. It's seen as kind of bad news, as panic, or falling into clearing. It tends to mean that something's gone wrong. It doesn't have to be that way. So there's three kind of main reasons you might find yourself in clearing. Let's tackle the kind of positive ones first and then come on to the negative one afterwards. So it might be you didn't apply to university at all. You might be sitting here now, you want to start university this year, but you haven't yet actually got an application sorted. You can actually, on A-level results day, you can actually apply late through clearing, so you can come into the process completely new. So type one, a group of people who go through clearing are late applicants looking to get a place. And there are thousands of students who do get a place through clearing on results day. Type 2 are people who've changed their mind. So say you applied for maths and when you wake up on results day morning and think, what am I doing? I hate maths. I want to do fine art. Then you can decline what's called release yourself from your maths choice and come in through clearing to study the course you want to do in fine art. So you can change your mind. The third group of people are the people who genuinely haven't managed to get in. So say you are predicted AAB and you don't quite get that, you get DDD. It's quite possible your firm and your insurance will both reject you on results day. In that situation, you're then falling into clearing and you're browsing the market for a suitable place. Clearing essentially is every single course that isn't full advertises their places to students at discounted offers. It starts on results day primarily, which is the 13th of August this year, but it will continue right through until mid-September really. But each day clearing's open, the number of courses will slowly day by day diminish. So you have to, as Ben says on results day, you have to be thinking proactively and be pretty quick. So one of my best mates from school, he panicked on results day, didn't get the grade he wanted, jumped into his car, disappeared around a corner in a cloud of dust, and wasn't seen for 4 or 5 days. By the time he re-emerged to try and get a place through clearing, lots of the ideal places he wanted has gone. So you've got time, you haven't got to panic, but at the same time, you can't sit on your hand for 3 weeks and then hope all the places are still there. You've got to move pretty fast. Not every single university offers places, Annabelle, but the majority do. The reason that people don't tend to leave it to clearing if they can avoid it is you can't guarantee your exact choice at your exact university being available. It's like a holiday. You can't guarantee if you leave it till the day before you want to fly that your exact flight, your exact hotel is going to be there. So applying for the main cycle, doing your research and planning is always best because you've got complete control, but there's still a safety net of lots and lots of unis with lots and lots of courses designed to give you a really good experience. And I know lots of people, both from my own mates in school and people through my job, who have had great experiences through their clearing courses. So don't feel that it's a complete disaster if you're there. The top tips are: be prepared just in case you need it, have some backup university options ready, and pull yourself together quick if you need to do. Don't panic and get yourself moving forward again as fast as you can do.
Perfect. Jamie, while I've got you, I've got a couple of questions that have come through on YouTube. First one is from Hiba, who has said, is clearing only possible for one day?
Yeah, so the results day is the primary day. We get literally thousands and thousands of phone calls, but places are still available for a good month to 6 weeks after that. So top tip for him is going to be as fast as you can. Try and maximize that first day to get contact. What you do is you contact the university of choice, either by phone, email, or WhatsApp. Phone's still the main one, but other platforms are growing. They give you what's called a verbal offer, which says, based on your grades, we would happily take you for the course. And then you can rack up as many verbal offers as you want. And then you pick the one you want to go to and add that as your choice on UCAS. So top tip is be as fast as you can, but it does go on for a few more days than that if you need to spend some more time thinking and researching and perhaps even visiting places.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And the other question was, do all universities accept students through clearing?
The majority, you can't always, I wouldn't necessarily say you get a place on classics at Oxford University, but by far the majority of universities do have places, although some universities essentially sell out, I guess you'd call it, in terms of spaces faster than others. So it's just about proactive and speed, particularly if it's a competitive course at a competitive uni.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for your question, Annabelle, for submitting that. Does anybody else have anything they want to add on clearing? Again, I'm sort of conscious on time here. No? Perfect. Good stuff, Jamie. You wrapped that up succinctly, which is awesome.
So unusual, for me.
Very unusual. So last little bit before we just start to wrap up this stream then. Nikita, so what happens next? What's next for our students that are going to be watching this live stream?
Yes, so say for instance you've gone through clearing or you've had results there, you've accepted an offer from your firm or your insurance choice, and then what will happen next is in the next coming weeks you'll receive a welcome and confirmation pack from the university. So that will have some information on the freshers events that they've got on and welcome events they've got on when you get to campus. And the next thing you should then aim to do is to open up a student bank account. So I think with most student bank accounts, you can only open them up once you've actually got a confirmed place. So whether that's the firm or insurance place that you've been confirmed, or if you've gone through clearing and you definitely know which university you're going to. You can normally do this online. You can go and speak to a branch manager, but these days you can just do it easily online. Do a bit of research into different bank accounts that are available and open that up. The next thing you should be doing is preparing to move to university. So if you're at home right now and you're pretty bored, you've got nothing to do, please learn to cook, because you cannot live on beans and toast forever. You will need to actually have something that's not a ready meal and keep going. Think about things like bedding, things you need to buy for your room, cutlery, kitchenware, everything like that. Start making a list of things you need to start doing and just get going and just get proactive, really.
Excellent stuff. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for helping out in this live stream and covering lots and lots of different topics there. We've answered quite a lot of questions throughout the stream, sort of dispersed quite a lot of the questions we had through the booking form throughout the stream. So hopefully we were to answer anybody that submitted through the form. We were able to answer your questions as we went.
There was one question on core maths, someone said earlier on.
Yes.
Does core maths have a UCAS tariff? The answer is yes, it does. It ranges from 20 points for an A down to 6 points for an E. So you can have those as additional points on top of the core level 3 qualifications you're taking.
There you go. Jamie with his quick Google in there. Got it straight in.
You know what you mean? All off the top of the head.
Absolutely. So the last couple of questions that we had, just making sure that we covered everything that was in the comments that we can do today. We obviously talked a little bit about the September intake and all that sort of stuff. So again, just keep an eye on social medias and various comms to see what's going to happen in September. One of the questions we did have, and I think somebody touched on it earlier very briefly about interviews, is should you repeat information from your statement in an interview? And if not, how do you share things and mention between your statement and your interview? It's quite a long question, but I guess just some advice regarding the interview and the statement might be useful here if anybody's got that.
There's bound to be an overlap. So often they're focusing on the same kind of skills. So your interview is your chance to expand on what you put in the personal statement. Obviously, you might refer to one thing in just one line in the statement, whereas in the interview, you might be talking about it for 2 or 3 minutes. So go into an interview prepared. What are the main experiences and skills I want to talk about, and what absolute critical things do I want to get into the conversation almost regardless? But at the same time, you've obviously got to be reactive and adaptive to what questions are coming your way. So it's a bit like the statement. You prepare, you draft, you make your notes, but then you've also got to make sure you've got those live communication skills there. But yeah, it doesn't matter if it overlaps. Don't feel you have to talk about different stuff. It's just about expanding what you've got before.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Don't panic. Interviews aren't scary barriers. They're actually an opportunity to showcase your skills rather than a pressure situation that you might sort of trip over in. So don't stress.
Absolutely. Does anybody have any other advice around the interviews that we could touch on just before we wrap up? No? Nobody went through an interview for their university application?
I did. Yeah.
Oh, did you? Nikita, any advice?
I would say... So
put you on the spot.
Questions, I know. One of the weirdest questions that I had, so they randomly were like, what's the square root of like 16? And I was like, what? It's just to like put you on the spot. I think it's because mine was for optics, so it's probably, I don't know why they did it, to be honest, but just no matter how much you prepare, they're going to ask you like weird and wonderful questions. They're just there to test you on the spot, really. I mean, I don't think DNU would do that to anyone. This wasn't DNU who did this to me. But yeah, just take it with a pinch of salt, take a breath, take a cup of water in with you or a bottle of water, have a sip, because you're going to get such dry mouth on the nerves, and that would be my main advice.
I saw a piece of advice for an interview actually that said that when somebody asks you a question, that's when you should drink, because it gives you that extra second. Yeah, there you go. That's our top tip for interviews. Last couple of questions then, because I was conscious of time. Was, will our UCAS points be affected as we've had to do extra stuff like work experience on our applications?
But I think the trick is trying to balance all aspects, is trying to make sure that you get work experience and develop skills, but not to the detriment of getting the grades in your A-levels. It's a similar skill set for uni. When you're at uni, you want to have a part-time job, you want to be able to have a great social life, but you don't want to drop the ball on your studies as well. So it's all about just balancing your time carefully across. And if you think you're overdoing the work, overdoing the volunteering, overdoing the social, pull back a bit to make sure that your grades don't suffer. Because when it comes to any application for any academic degree, experience is important, but it's the grades that underpin it. So never ever distract yourself so much that you actually don't get the grades you need because of it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So I think we're going to end it there, as it has just gone over an hour for this particular live stream. Thank you so much to everybody that stuck around and watched. I hope you're out there enjoying the sunshine while you were watching or listening to us. Thank you to you guys for obviously answering lots of questions and being part of the live stream. It's been absolutely fab. Got a couple of links. I've got to do my admin at the end of the live stream as always. I popped a link in the comments before about visiting our open day. So again, if you want to find more information about the courses, you can go to the link that is currently in the comments. If you just scroll up a little bit, you can go there, or you can just visit the DMU website and book onto that. You'll probably see our faces. We'll probably do similar streams to this on the open day, but you'll also be able to find out a lot more about the courses there as well. So that's a really, really good place to just go and just find out more about what DMU has to offer. We are running quite a lot of live streams over the next, well, we have been doing for the last few weeks, and we will continue to do so until such a time as we can leave our houses. So if you'd like to visit more of our live streams and actually find out more about the university process, we're doing one on Thursday about student finance, if you're curious about how that works, so you can come along to that. And you can sign up for that using that link on the screen there as well. I've popped that in the comments too. Last one, I'm just going to mention as well, if you've got any other questions for myself or for the other guys in the team, or even just some of our current students, and you want to know more about how the courses work, you can actually go along to this link just here, and again I've popped that in the chat as well, to talk to one of our current students or to one of us, and you can answer questions about our admissions process or anything like that. Why are you guys all laughing?
Damn, we're awful.
I can see you in the corner of my eye. I was trying to do my spiel and I can see you all smirking. Don't think I hadn't noticed. I should have just taken you off the screen.
I don't know what you mean.
Okay, but anyway, yes, if you have any questions, obviously feel free to go there and you can have a chat with any one of us about anything to do with the university, and we can answer some of your questions there as well. Okay, I've done it now. I've wrapped up. We can wrap up this live stream. Thank you very much to all of you for tuning in. Thank you all of you guys for helping us out here. We'll see you at the next one, everybody. Stay safe, stay home, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Cheers, bye, everyone.
See you later. Right, I've got to work out how to turn the live stream off now. Bye.
Bye-bye. Right.